What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a good day. Today's everybody's going to be celebrating and rejoicing to know that somebody involved in Ethan Klein's lawsuit is about to face the axe, or already has faced the axe. So basically, we all know about the situation whereby Ethan Klein has basically sued three people in particular, being Casey Tron, Denims, and Frogan. Well, in one of those cases, they've already settled. So basically, Casey Tron has basically settled with Ethan Klein, and she let out this hilarious apology video where everybody basically laughed at her and made fun of her. But obviously speaking, honestly, yeah, I would have done the same if I was in her position, or rather, if I was her attorney, I would have done the same thing. I would have told her, look, you need to do this apology video. You need to settle this thing out of court and be done with it. That's usually the best way to deal with these type of cases. Saying you're sorry, admitting defeat, and doing whatever you can to get an acceptable proposal on the table and move forward with that. So whenever it comes down to copyright cases, it's a bad idea to be stubborn and to fight it unless you were like the person that really owned that copyright, or you really have like good grounds to fight it. In these guys' cases, they didn't have that. So they were basically cooked. Well, that's from a legal standpoint. That's just my opinion, and I'm saying that basically as a general lawyer. But be that as it may. Going on into this case, after Casey Tron's been basically removed, it leaves two people behind, that being Denims and Frogan. Now, here's where it gets a bit crazier. Now, Frogan apparently obviously has been dodging service for some time, and eventually they finally got it via substituted service. And basically what that means is they didn't serve it directly on her, they used an alternative means to do it. And well, usually with substituted service, you can do it via like a newspaper advertisement or other means. I've known of people to, as crazy as this sound, drop a whole bunch of legal documents into a crowd of people or crowd of protesters to basically serve them via substituted service instead of handing it directly to them. Personally, they used a helicopter and they just dumped hundreds, if not thousands, of copies of this lawsuit on top of this crowd. And whoever picked it up, basically that counts as everybody getting notified of it. It sounds wild, but I've actually seen or heard of that case being done before, actually. So now with Frogan's situation, basically what it boils down to is that she has failed to properly settle with Ethan Klein. And despite all their attempts, everything backfired and blew up. And they then gave her an opportunity to defend the matter, otherwise they're going to proceed against her. So to give you an idea, there's an email over here from basically the 20th of April. And basically as it says, I'm going to just read the email itself. This is from Ethan's lawyers to Frogan's lawyers. And basically it reads over here, your counter offer was not well received by my client or myself. Our generosity was repaid with numerous incorrect factual and legal assertions. It is clear that our settlement discussions have been unproductive and we need to move forward with litigation. Your client has 3 weeks from this email to file a responsive pleading. If she does not, my client will seek default and default judgment. Now, here's where things get a bit crazy. Looking at this over here, numerous incorrect factual and legal assertions. So it's pretty obvious that in the background, what they were trying to do was, instead of settle the case, they were basically fighting it in the background. Now, to do that as a lawyer, you're going to need some money from your client. Now, maybe Frogan used the money that she's gained out of GoFundMe to fight it. And then obviously that just ran out, tap ran dry, and that was it. Alternatively, I don't know what the policy is with GoFundMe, whether you only get the money when you hit your target, because that would be kind of funny if it did. Because as far as her GoFundMe goes, she basically raised $38,000, which in my opinion should have been enough money to get her to where she is at this stage to at least try to settle it. That should be enough for you to try and settle instead of, fighting and going back and forward. The first thing she should have done is, as soon as she got the money, she should have immediately went, look, I'm sorry, I'll issue an apology, and please take this money and call it a day. That's what she should have done, similar to Casey Tron, and she would have also had to have turned on the H3 Snark Reddit, which is something that she's not really prepared to do, obviously. Now, let's read what a GoFundMe is made up for, right? After nearly 2 years of targeted harassment against me, Ethan Klein has now escalated into suing me for reacting to his video on Hassan and myself on his video content titled Content Nuke Hassan Piker. This fundraiser does cover any legal fees, okay, good, associated with his complaint, and any counterclaims they may have against him. So it looks like, given from that email that we read, the legal assertions, maybe, just maybe, his lawyer was dumb enough, or her lawyer and Frogan were dumb enough to try and countersue in that whole situation, and it backfired. Because maybe she was looking for a payday and it blew up in her face. because, well, she's not very bright. And any other bills and personal expenses from lost wages and damages arising from this litigation. I don't see how, it's a civil dispute. I don't see how she could lose personal expenses and wages and what sort of bills she could incur besides legal fees, which is already covered over here. So the rest of this after legal fees effectively should be deleted because it's irrelevant to the case. And while she may say it arising from this litigation, it kind of looks like she was looking for a payday. She wanted the $200,000, thinking that maybe she wouldn't spend like all the money or just a little bit of it, and she'd pocket the rest for herself. And that's how she'd make her money to survive, so she doesn't have to get a real job or work in the real world. And when that didn't happen, I think maybe she tried to countersue in the case, and things blew up in their face. And then they were given basically until the 20th of April to basically reply, and things obviously didn't work out for them. Now here's where it gets funny, because on Drama Alert they've actually posted a copy of, well, a snippet of the court order, and basically it reads, it appears from the records in the above entitled action that summons has been served upon the defendants named below, and further appearing from the affidavit of counsel for plaintiff and other evidence as required by FR Civ P55A, that each of the below defendants have failed to plead or otherwise defend in said action as directed in said summons and as provided by the federal rules of civil procedure. Now, therefore, on the request of counsel, the default of each of the following named defendants is hereby entered. Damn. So this looks like this is the court order itself, and then obviously there is legal pleadings as well. I would advise that you look at Legal Mindset's video for deeper in-depth analysis of that, because I'll just basically be regurgitating what he says, but we'll do our own version of here and kind of give you like a short snippet of it. But either way, I suggest you watch his video. I will link it down below in the description or in the comment section for you to actually have a look at to get more in-depth knowledge of it. But basically, an application for default judgment, as it suggests, is basically an application brought when somebody fails to properly defend a legal matter. So usually this happens when you issue a summons and the other side doesn't enter into a proper defense or enters into a defense at all. Sometimes you can strike out their defense if they entered into a shaky one and then proceed with default judgment against them, or if they fail to enter into a notice to defend, then you proceed anyway. Now, I don't know what the situation is over here because I don't know of any other pleadings from this case, but this particular one, from what I've seen, it would appear that Frogan failed to obviously fight it. And they've given their reasons for that, basically being that they've attempted to serve her on her and they failed to do so, or the summons was attempted to be served on her. They failed to do so, and that's because she's been ducking and diving them. Effectively, they then did it via substituted service, where they basically did it via other means. It could be that they maybe attached it to a door, to a gate. Maybe they just served it via the newspaper. Maybe they sent a email, social media post. Maybe they dropped it from the sky onto a building. That's a thing. I've known somebody who's done that in the past. So that could be why they've given a notice. And then from there, she's obviously been into negotiations with them. Now, apparently negotiations have been going on from as early as August of 2025, as per this court documents. And then, so they entered into talks on August of 2025. They were given an extension till October of 2025. And then from October 2025 until 20th of April, they've basically failed to settle this. So basically from August of 2025 to April 2026, no headroom, nothing could be done. And then they entered into default and got a default judgment against her. Now, what this means for Frogan, basically, it means that she now has a court order against her effectively, and that she has to pay Ethan Klein. So Ethan Klein is looking at a good payday, basically, and it all depends now what happens. It's crazy to say this, but Frogan is definitely going bankrupt. And that's going to be funny as hell if she's not already bankrupt. So we'll see where this heads out and take it from there. My honest thing is, she should have settled, and she's an idiot. Had she settled, she would have been way better off, and she would have been done with this. But instead, entitlement, obviously, her personality being, like sandpaper, she doesn't exactly have the brightest light bulb upstairs. So it's pretty obvious we're dealing with an individual who's basically entitled, dumb, and has no clue on how to properly conduct themselves without shitting the bed. So that being said, guys, I'm out of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, subscribe, all that other fun stuff. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, you take care of yourselves and have a good day. I know Frogan isn't. Bye.